Here in the UK, we normally grit the roads. But why do we do it? Is it a good idea? Is there a better way to do it? And what does the law say?
A major incident's been declared on the M25 by National Highways after several hundred vehicles were trapped in a 3-mile stretch of Britain's busiest motorway in Hertfordshire. Snow, ice and fog are causing major problems on the roads, trains and airports, and some schools will also be closed today.
Bless his cotton socks, Casey Neistat made his name on YouTube surfboarding in the snow in New York. Due to some very poor life choices, I'm an English solicitor. I can't snowboard, I'm not a filmmaker, I'm not a famous YouTuber, I've never been cool. So I'm not going to be ice skating, snowboarding or skiing down my local high street, but I can make a vaguely legal video about grit. No, stick with me. Grit is interesting, it is. Look what we found. We found grit. Wonderful, wonderful grit. It's fantastic stuff. Look at that. Don't eat it. Don't eat grit. Last night it snowed. I said it would, and it did. It's lovely. Hertford is blanketed in this beautiful, soft, white Afghan quilt eider-down duvet that sings Christmas. The kids were delighted, and we've had snowball fights and built a snowman. But travel has ground to a halt. Trains and buses have been cancelled, and some of the roads are impassable. The M25 is London's massive 120-mile orbital motorway, and last night and this morning it was in total chaos. Lots of snow, no grit.
It's absolutely desperate, and I mean, I'm trying my best to keep my spirits up, but when you're sitting in the car on your own and it's freezing.
People couldn't get home, ambulances couldn't get people to hospital.
And yeah, it's not fun, that is for sure.
According to the Daily Mirror, Gemma Ridquist spent the day with her mum, Paula, in Colchester, Essex, and then spent the rest of the night in her car travelling home to Bedford. The journey should have taken an hour. She left at 7 p.m. and got home at 7 a.m. It was atrocious, she told the Mirror. There were so many crashes, people were stuck in the middle of the road, you couldn't move. Gemma added that she had never seen anything like it. The authorities were totally unprepared. It was horrendous, but there was a real sense of community, she said. Everybody was helping each other out. Now that's lovely, but thousands of people were stuck on the road to hell. They were understandably furious. The road had not been gritted.
It's pretty disheartening. The UK, we're just rubbish. We are rubbish when the weather gets extreme, aren't we? We really are bad.
You'd think the local authority has to grit the roads. But what does the law actually say? Under section 41, 1A of the Highways Act, England and Wales, 1980, a highway authority is under a duty to ensure, so far as is reasonably practicable, that safe passage along a highway is not endangered by snow or ice. So far, so good. Under section 151 of the Highways Act, England and Wales, 1980, if an obstruction arises in a highway from an accumulation of snow or from the falling down of banks on the side of the highway or from any other cause, the highway authority shall remove the obstruction. Even better. So, can all those thousands of people stuck on the M25 sue the local councils? Well, a Mr. Geoffrey Good did try exactly that. At dawn, on a frosty November morning in 1991, Jeff was driving on the A267 at Wellbrook Hill near Mayfield in Sussex. As he moved out to overtake on a straight stretch of road, the rear wheel of his Ford Capri skidded on a patch of black ice. He lost control and the car crashed into a bridge. He suffered dreadful injuries and was almost entirely paralysed. The highway was maintained by East Sussex County Council. Jeff claimed damages for breach of their duty to maintain the highway. He argued correctly that the weather forecast was for snow and they should have put down salt or grit to prevent the ice forming. In that case, the court did rule that a highway authority has an absolute duty to keep the fabric of the highway in a good state of repair, to keep it safe for ordinary traffic. So they have to grit the roads, right? No, they don't really. Mr. Good lost the case. He got nothing. The judges, in the case of Good versus East Sussex County Council, held that the council had done enough and dismissed the action. Councils don't have a statutory duty to keep the roads free of ice. But they do make considerable efforts to keep us safe. Gritting trucks go out at silly o'clock in the morning. Unfortunately, the gritter arrived too late for Jeff Good. It missed him by a matter of minutes. But the council had done all it could. You see, your council has a responsibility to clear snow from the highway, but they don't actually have to do it. They have to look after the roads, but they are not expected to prevent ice. They don't really have to do anything at all. There's no duty to actually grit or remove snow from the roads. You can, if you want, like Mr. Good, take the Highways Authority to court. Under Section 152 of the Highways Act, England and Wales, 1980, if they fail to remove an obstruction, the court can order them to do it. Anybody can apply to a magistrate's court. You don't even really need a lawyer. Just walk into the court, explain the snow and ice have blocked the road, and the court, in theory, can order the Highways Authority to remove it within 24 hours. I wish you the best of luck with that one though. Under Section 3 of the Highways Act, England and Wales, 1980, the court has to consider A,
the character of the highway to which the complaint relates and the nature and amount of traffic by which it is ordinarily used. B, the nature and extent of the obstruction. And C, the resources of manpower, vehicles and equipment for the time being available to the Highway Authority for work on the highway and the extent to which those resources are being or need to be employed elsewhere by that authority on such work.
Basically, Section 3 is a get out of jail free card. All the Highways Authority needs to do is turn up in court and say, sorry, we're a bit busy, because of the snow. We're doing what we can. Their duty is not absolute in the sense that the roads have to be perfect. In any event, there's no penalty, you can't really win, and there's no money in it for you. This is not America. In the States, where there's a blame, there's a claim. Here, where there's a blame, there's normally a local council saying, sorry. If you're thinking it's the principle, not the money, then stop, 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 stop. When you say that, all the solicitor hears is money, 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 money.
Show me the money! Keep stacking those dollars, baby.
The Traffic Management Act 2004 only requires authorities to do all that is reasonable to maintain the road and manage the network effectively to keep the traffic moving. Nothing more. Now look, the councils do grit the roads. They do want to keep us safe and they want to keep the roads clear. But they're not magicians, they're not made of money, and we don't have an infinite supply of gritting trucks. The gritters were certainly out last night in Hertford. This is a nice part of the world and we're very lucky here, but there are plenty of small country lanes that will be snowbound for days. Local councils have a stockpile of about 1.5 million tonnes of salt. That's roughly enough to last 12 days. The grit costs around £45 million and every year around 160 million is spent maintaining roads in the winter. Grit is made up of rock salt. Anti-caking agents are added to it, but basically it's sodium chloride. It's in the sea and it can be mined. Nearly all the salt for gritting our roads and around half our table salt comes from one source, the Winsford mine in Cheshire. We've been mining salt in Cheshire since the Roman times. The mine is enormous. It runs for 4 miles east to west and 3 miles north to south. It's about the size of 700 football pitches. The Winsford mine produces, on average, 15,000 tonnes or 500 full tipper trucks of salt each and every day. They've got about 500,000 tonnes of the stuff stored above ground. So you know, and why wouldn't you want to know, it takes 6 months to remove 500,000 tonnes of rock salt. The salt comes up shaft number 5, which was installed in 1973. It's 165 metres deep, and the salt comes up in a series of skips, 9 tonnes at a time. It takes a full minute to take the skip from the bottom to the top. Once the salt is out, vast caverns are all that's left. Because the mine has a constant temperature and humidity, it's ideal as a storage site. They have around 3 million boxes stored in the mine. The National Archives use the tunnels to store public records. Our banks have 32 huge rooms, 2 stories high. The police store old case files there. Crossrail uses it to store rock samples. There are film archives and even paintings from our biggest galleries. You know the end of the first Indiana Jones movie? It's that kind of thing. Salt is plentiful and it's cheap. The mine has a supply that will probably last another 500 years, but salt has a problem. It's a bit salty. When the snow melts, the salt dissolves. It's meant to go down the drain, and much of it does, but it also goes into the soil. It gets into the groundwater. It goes into our rivers and lakes. It makes them saltier. Frogs, toads, tadpoles, all amphibians maintain chemical balance through their skin. Too much salt and they die. We have roads everywhere, so the problem is nationwide. If you have a dog, you probably already know this. The grit irritates their paws, they lick their paws and swallow the grit, and that can make them really ill. Birds have the same problem, and it often kills them. I don't think we need to panic about this. Here in Hertford, it only occasionally snows. Gritting is generally considered to be acceptable and cost effective. Salt is cheap. It's not toxic. There are alternatives to salt, but they have similar problems and they cost way, way more. But we could use less salt here. Councils are aware of the problem and they very often mix in sawdust and sand to reduce the amount of salt we use. You don't melt more snow with more grit. A light covering is all that's really needed, and salt is only really effective to about 2 centimetres of snow anyway. It's also about 90% cheaper to grit before the snow falls. But in countries that have long winters, gritting is probably not a good long-term idea. Over in Iceland, they don't grit. They've got all that lovely hot spring water heated deep in the earth. It bubbles up and it's pumped into houses and the roads. The roads and the pavements have central heating. Hot water is pumped through pipes under the roads, keeping the roads snow-free. We can't do that here, but in Scandinavian cities like Oslo, Norway and Helsinki, they install electric elements in the pavements and the roads. Job done. That would be fantastically expensive, and I can't see us doing that either. But the Germans have a really, really smart system. There, everybody has a legal duty to clear the snow from the pavement in front of where they live, along with half the road in front of their homes. Brilliant! The Germans are not allowed to use salt or grit because it's harmful to the environment. Under German law, if you fail to clear your bit of pavement and your bit of road, you face fines of up to 10,000 euros. I think that is a great solution. It's so simple. Everyone does a bit and everyone benefits. We used to do something similar here. The streets of London were filthy. Mud, rubbish, horse poo, cattle poo, as well as snow and ice in winter often made the streets dangerous and pretty unpleasant. If you know your Dickens, you'll know that gangs of small boys made a living by sweeping the crossings to clear a passage for pedestrians to cross the road. In common law, it used to be the job of every member of the parish to keep the roads clear. But we now have laws that make it the job of the local council. You can sue them, but you can't win. Not really. We do have to keep our roads safe. Using less salt is better for the frogs, and everybody loves frogs. But the real takeaway here is that we need to change the Highways Act. Local councils should be required by law to grit the big important roads like the M25. You should be able to sue if they don't. I'm Matt Fresco, and if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. I do vaguely legal Hertfordshire-based stuff. Drive safe and have a lovely Christmas. Under section 1... Shit! Bugger. You're going to like this. This is Hertford. This is the town where the man who discovered evolution lived. This is one of the great English old towns. Look at this. We're in the car park at the station. Look, 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 look. There's a padlock on the grid box. Look, 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 look. The grid box is padlocked because you wouldn't need it, would you? You wouldn't need it today. Hang on.
Maybe I'll definitely get home for Christmas. Maybe that's the plan.